Live stream audio check. Live stream audio check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Live stream audio check.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon's meeting of the North Somerset Council Cabinet. We've got a very busy agenda as usual, and I hope that anyone reading this agenda will have got a sense of a sort of very clear story about the North Somerset we're trying to build. So there are reports about safer public spaces, stronger financial grip, better transport, cleaner streets, and sharper delivery. So very much things that we know our residents are talking about, and it's pleasing to have an agenda that focuses on those key items. So I will commence the meeting with the addresses by members of the public, which is item 1. I don't believe we've got any, so I'll move on to item 2, which is apologies for absence. So the only thing to note is that Catherine Gibbons, Councillor Gibbons, is not here in person, but she is on Teams. So thank you, Catherine. And otherwise, all members of Cabinet are present. I should take the opportunity to welcome Councillor Bridger, Steve, back to the Cabinet and your first Cabinet meeting since the AGM. So welcome, Steve. Item 3 is declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest. So this is your moment, colleagues, to declare any interests. I can't see any hands. No? Okay, thank you. Then we've got item 4, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of April. I haven't been notified of any amendments, so can colleagues indicate their support so I can sign those as a correct record? Thank you. Item number 5 is non-cabinet councillors' addresses. So again, we've got none. So the first substantive item is item 6, which is the Public Space Protection Orders 3-yearly review. So Councillor Canniford, Mark, if you'd like to introduce this report, please.
Thank you, Chair. And just to set out just a few brief details on this, this is to currently note these recommendations, well, not note, but support these recommendations, which are putting us in a holding position currently, so we can go through all the responses in terms of the consultation, which allow us to build up a couple of things which I feel are important. Now I am looking after community safety for council, and that is, I very much feel, and I would appreciate the feedback from cabinet members here or anywhere else privately, but I think we need to start concentrating on fixing certain issues. Having too many PSPOs will result in things being ignored too much, but we need to have a very good focus, and one of those, and I think there are 4 very clear focuses, one about drinking in public space, cycling on pavements, drug use in public space, and dog fouling, which has always been a great problem. And we just need to get to some action on these things, and we need to build a clear plan on how we're going to do that. We also need to look at, and we need to push about the opportunities around district-wide enforcement on certain issues. So I think the one that the leader had mentioned in the past was about having a district-wide ban on alcohol in public space, in council's public space particularly, and whether we can do that, and we need to work that through and find those solutions and come up with a really good plan to be able to enforce and stop people drinking in public space who are causing nuisance. I have been working with the scrutiny panel on that, and I'll continue to do so. They have a working group to deal with that, and I have asked if I can be invited to attend and help come up with some really positive and strong and actionable recommendations which we can get in place quickly, because I think the feedback, and I'm sure members agree, the feedback we're getting is people are getting a little bit fed up with some of the behaviours that we're having to tolerate. So if I can find support for the recommendations, this is giving us a chance to work through those proposals, and we will bring a report back to Cabinet or full Council, I'm not sure which it will be, to put those in place later in the year, late summer.
Thank you, Mark. Can I have a seconder for the recommendations then? Please, Councillor Mallion, thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Yeah, Annamika, Councillor Waite.
Thank you. I just, first of all, yes, I absolutely support these recommendations. I think they seem very sensible to me. I thought it was interesting just to reflect very briefly on the fact that, you know, we are obviously very varied district. We have some larger towns where they have different issues to what we might have in some of our more rural communities. And in my own village of Dundry, we have a PSBO. And that hasn't always worked particularly well. And it comes back to what Mark was suggesting. You know, it's about consistency. And if you read the report, it talks about, in some cases, the signage not being very clear or the enforcement not being consistent enough. I was very pleased that I had an email this morning because this is something we have been trying to address. Had an email this morning to say that we've now got quotes for some cameras, and I think if we have some CCTV cameras in some of those locations, that would be an incredibly big step forward for us. So I'm pleased that there's work in progress, and I just thought it was a good moment to raise that. So thank you for that, and we'll monitor it wildly.
Thank you very much. And I'm just going to repeat the remarks that I made to a degree at a pre-meeting a couple of weeks ago, and also to Councillor Caniford 2 minutes ago. So sorry, Mark, you're going to hear it again. But I absolutely support the direction of travel, and it is a good report. But I think we do need to be more operationally hard-edged and actually get on with it. I would absolutely encourage you to take this back and talk to the team about what we can do to implement the PSPOs more quickly, where we're looking at new ones or where we're looking at changes, and that we will demonstrate what residents will see differently. And I think the enforcement point is really key there. We all know that we've got a range of good PSPOs, but what we haven't necessarily got is clear and consistent enforcement, whether that's by ourselves, whether that's by police partners, or whether it's by third parties. And in any way, if there are things that we can do more quickly, so for example, the report talks about signage, and Councillor Waite's just referred to it as well. If signage is poor, let's fix it quickly. We don't need to have working groups and reviews and get too bogged down in the legal niceties of it. Let's just get on with it, because what our residents expect is to see impact and real differences that they will see and feel, and that's what we've got to be about. Mark?
And if I can just come back on, I think on the list here, part of that is signage. The problem we have, don't we, I think, as a society, if you've got hundreds of signs saying don't do this and don't do that, they ignore them all. So I think it's about that signage pollution, getting the ones in that really matter to the public, actually having the ones which will have an impact, and having the right sort of sign, because, you know, I know on our high streets you have a little do not cycle sign which is smaller than a saucer, so no one's going to see it. So let's just get this right. Let's just make it work rather than worry about what planning permission is, what we can do, what we can't do. Let's just have these things working, because those minor little changes will make such a difference to our towns, to our villages, and just to people feel like we're trying to do something about it. So I agree with you entirely, and I will pick up as you've requested.
Great stuff, thank you. So I haven't got any other speakers, so if colleagues are happy to show their support for the recommendations, please. Thank you very much. So I'll now move on to item 7, which is the Budget Monitor and Month 12 outturn and the Q4 performance report, which is obviously in my name. Some of this feels like the same story that we keep bringing back to Cabinet, and that's because we're obviously a council that's faced major pressures. But what this report does tell a story of is how we've acted early, we've strengthened our resilience, and we've successfully balanced the budget at month 12. So this brings together the financial outturn, the capital programme, the update on reserves, the dedicated schools grant position, and our year-end performance and risk picture. And I think a key headline for everyone to take away is that despite the very real pressures that I'll come on to, the North Somerset Council has balanced its budget for the year, and not by accident, not by good luck, not by raiding reserves, but through good grip, through good discipline, and through in-year recovery plans led by the directorates. And I want to thank staff for continuing to work hard to tackle the funding pressures that we face, transform services, and help us to get to a good long-term sustainable position. We ended the year with a small underspend, which will be transferred into the general revenue reserve. The underspend was relatively modest, so just over £130,000, which in the scale of our budget is small. But I think it's important from a strategic point of view, because it does mean that we delivered a balanced budget. We were able to implement mitigations to ease our financial pressures in year, and we didn't then need to continue to access reserves in order to balance the books, and that's a very positive position to be in. There were a number of areas which continue to be of concern, of course. So we had £12 million worth of material service pressures, particularly in adults, children's services, send, recycling and transport. We responded to those with real mitigations, tight control of spending, use of contingencies, and stronger treasury performance. It's worth noting we delivered or mitigated over 92% of the planned savings that we'd built into the 25-26 budget, which in a difficult year and on the back of the challenges that we've had in previous years is a serious achievement. We've made the largest single-year capital investment the council has made, with around £99 million spent on infrastructure, roads, schools, send provision, leisure, Burnbeck Pier, transport, housing and community assets. The report sets out that around 80% of reportable corporate plan actions have been completed or green or green amber. So this shows that not only have we been managing the finances, but we have been delivering against our corporate plan targets. And unlike some other councils, we are doing the right things that were recommended through the Chartered Institute of Public Finance Accountants Financial Resilience Framework that we did early in previous years to try and keep things as tight and under control as we possibly can. We obviously have to be honest. We still have major budget gaps over the next 3 years, and financial sustainability continues to be the council's central strategic challenge. Our general reserves remain lower than we would ideally like, and although we have been able to add to it modestly for 25-26, we've still got more work to do. And it's important, I know some colleagues think, well, you know, why do we have reserves? They're not spare cash, they are the council's shock absorbers. And in a volatile world which has been affected by pandemics, by wars, by energy price shocks, by inflationary pressures, we know that weak reserves do undermine our ability to make effective choices. So it's important that as over the coming years we do continue to improve our reserves position so that we're more resilient, independent and credible as we move forward. The dedicated schools grant position remains one of the biggest strategic risks we face. Although the government has announced the high need stability grant, that has not yet been fully confirmed, or the amount, so that's not certain enough to reflect in our accounts position. And whilst we all recognise and welcome the additional funding for SEND services, grant mitigation, one-off funding isn't the same as system reform, so we still look to government to properly reform the system and help us to drive down costs. You'll also note that there are a few budget amendments for 26-27 that are set out in the paper, and it's just worth noting these aren't just technical adjustments, they are about trying to make sure that we're delivering on our corporate plan and on our transformation agenda. So changes around expert at hand, best start family hubs, family first, adult social care, transformation, they all have the same logic, which is about intervening earlier, preventing escalation, reducing demand and improving outcomes. And that's exactly the direction that we need to be taking as a council as we go forward. This report is not the end, of course, but really the starting gun for 26-27. So my message to Cabinet and to directors is that where savings have slipped, we need recovery plans. Where pressures are recurring, we need redesign. Where reserves are used, we need a plan to replenish them. Where capital schemes are delayed, we need clearer accountability. And where performance is falling behind, we need action and not just descriptions. So I think this report is a very positive story, but it has not been an easy story. We've more work to do, and in our next phase, and there's a report later from Councillor Bridger on the Transformation and Change programme, we need to be bolder and to demonstrate that we can continue to deliver for local people, improve North Somerset and strengthen our financial resilience. So I'm happy to move the recommendations and ask for a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Caniford. Any questions or comments from anyone? No? Very good. Okay, thank you. Could you indicate your support for the recommendations, please? Thank you very much. So that's carried, and we'll move on to item 8. Which is the local transport delivery plan. So that's Councillor Mallion. Hugh.
Mike, thanks very much. So this is a brand new plan this year, required from central government, from the Department for Transport, and it brings together all of our the existing transport funding lines into a single, hopefully transparent plan. It also has the benefit of being multi-year, something that this council and most local councils around the country have been asking for some years, so that we get away from the cliff edge of annual funding and not knowing whether we're going to have what level of funding we've got for the next year. It also allows us to plan better. We're getting rid of, to some extent, or largely, we're getting rid of the bidding process each year, which takes up an enormous amount of time and officer resource to get those bids in with no absolute guarantee of success. The summary of the report says that essentially there's no new money in this, and that's correct, but it only by relying on some assumptions that are risky to rely on, I think. So consolidating the money over 3 years now between 27 and 30 means that we know what we're getting. A lot of the funding over the next 3 years that would have been part of bidding rather than part of core funding, if you like, was not guaranteed, and neither is the quite significant uplift that starts from year 2 and then into year 3 guaranteed under the old scheme. So it's a very positive move, I think, to give us that 3-year funding envelope and know what we can plan for, and also to see the uplifts that come over the next couple of years. There was one query. I had one query from a councillor colleague about, well, where's all the detail, Hugh? You know, where are all the schemes and everything? And I had to explain that that's not what this plan is about. This plan is about the total consolidated funding for 3 years and allotting the monies per category of things we do, from buses to highways maintenance to active travel to drop curbs, whatever it is. How much money we're going to spend in the actual detailed schemes, what we're going to do, that detail is to follow, and will be coming through the usual channels, democratic channels, and through scrutiny in the future. So I think it's a positive report taking us forward over the next 3 years, and I hope colleagues will support it.
Thank you, Hugh. Is there a seconder for the recommendations? Yep, Annamika, thank you. Councillor Waite. Any questions or comments from anyone? Yeah, Annamika?
A couple of small ones. First of all, I found it really positive, Hugh, to read in this document some early indicators of the benefits of us joining WECA. The bigger planning that's going on about the needs for North Somerset and within the wider district, I think I felt that was a really, really positive thing, and it was really pleasing to read that. It's nice, you know, we've just made that decision for us, and it's really good to see that in this longer term plan for our transport, that's already sort of incorporated in that. I had a quick question which you may not be able to answer, but I'd like to have a chat about that another time if that's okay. I noticed in Annex D the local transport outcomes framework, which is a whole series of questions about what the outcomes of transport are for the various communities that we have. I wondered whether within that framework we identify the rural communities, and, you know, for instance, where it says a percentage of modal share or the public patronage on public transport. Do we differentiate between where people live, and do we have an idea about how the different communities are affected differently by our public transport? That's a big question. I wasn't expecting an answer, but as I was reading through the whole document, that really struck me. So that'd be good to have a chat about that sometime. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And the only kind of comment I would make, I think it's a really good, a good report, but the critical bit is exactly what you alluded to, Hugh, which is the delivery, isn't it? Because in the end, the plan that we submit is just that, a plan, isn't it? And it's a strategy. It is not delivery. And if we don't demonstrate for our residents how these are going to be visible, real, practical schemes on the ground, then we won't carry them with us. One point of reassurance that would be welcome is just on that we are doing everything that we can to demonstrate that we're delivering schemes that residents actually and businesses actually want, and not just schemes which are responding to a Whitehall framework or diktat, because I think we've all over the last few years had, how can I phrase this, mixed experience with some of our highways and transport infrastructure. And I think the key learning point for me is we have to keep challenging ourselves. Do people actually want this? And is this going to make a positive difference for our area? So I just welcome, perhaps before we take the vote, your assurance that we're continuing to push hard on that point.
Okay, yeah. I'll start with Annamika. Thanks for the comments about the WECA. Absolutely, it's veined through it. Everyone in transport and highways, but particularly transport, is really focused on the journey we're on towards WECA. This plan, which has just left my screen, this plan acknowledges that we have that our plans are focusing with WECA's plans for the future already, to make sure that there is some alignment there, so that when we join, there are not big gaps in what we're doing. That's in there. We're already aware of the of a potential problem with a 2-year gap between the end of this round of funding for us and WECA's Transport for City Regions funding envelope, but officers are really on the case with that and talking to DFT officers about it. The outcomes framework, and particularly as it relates to rural issues, absolutely happy to have a conversation with you on that outside of this meeting. And then Mike, your point about delivery, absolutely key, can't agree more. So this plan, it starts from a good place because, as we know, it's consolidated funding, and the government are basically acceding to what local councils want to some degree, giving consolidated funding, getting rid of a large part of the cliff edge bidding process, which drives local authorities crazy. It does give us, and the report alludes to it, giving us more flexibility to do our schemes, things that local businesses, local residents, us as a council that we want to do. It does also say that despite the consolidated funding, the government, or in our case DFT in particular on this, still have their streams of where they want us to put money and how much to do in this area, from roads to buses to active travel and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's still reasonably prescriptive, but there is more wriggle room now than there's been in the past, and I think we've got to take positives from that.
Great, thank you very much. I can't see any other hands, so if colleagues are happy to show their support for the recommendations, please. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll move on to item 9, which is the extension of the parks and street scene contract. So that's Councillor Caniford Mark.
Thank you. And this one again is to get agreement from Cabinet with regards to extending the parks and street scene contract for an additional 3 years. We have used up the previous extensions that we wanted, but we are finding ourselves in a slightly different situation today. This is due to our devolution programme, and of course we are in negotiations with other authorities to try and work out how we can best deliver services for our residents. I would like support for this so we can delegate the final details of the contract and extension terms to our director, the S151 officer and head of procurement. But this time will be used properly. It's not just a case of pushing the can down the road. We need to develop a proper commissioning and procurement plan for the future and how we want to deliver that plan, who we want to have that plan delivered by. So we do need more time to actually do that with NSEC and with our current partners. So we just need to have this extension so we can do those things and pick up and make sure the service levels do not drop off, because there are certain things that we want to certainly move around and try and provide a better service.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder for the recommendations? Thank you, Councillor Mallion. Any questions or comments? Councillor Bridger, Steve.
Thank you, Mike, and thanks, Mark, for bringing this report. I absolutely support the recommendations in it. I did have a question around, given that this we're talking about a rollover of the current Glendale contract, what operational flexibility we have to make tweaks to the work we ask Glendale to do for us. So we're all mindful of the fact our seasons are becoming increasingly blurred. Grass still grows above, I think, 10 degrees, I think. It's more difficult to collect fallen leaves in the autumn if crews are still out cutting grass in December. I've certainly had some residents complaining to me that in the summer dry period we still had crews out cutting grass that didn't need to be cut. Maybe a perception, maybe true. I know we're reviewing the vehicles and the machinery and all the stuff that we procured sort of 5 years ago, I think, 2021, that we need to deliver the services because it might be different to the kit that we procured in 2021. But there's just a question mark around the flexibility we have to around the work that Glendale does for us, given the changing climate, basically. Thank you.
So the short answer is definitely yes. There is an opportunity. It is a resource-based contract, so whilst we are at bare minimum in terms of service due to the historical cuts that we faced as a council, we can, within those constraints, we can still move our resources around. You highlighted the fact we do need to replace some ageing vehicles, but that also provides us with a further opportunity to make sure that those vehicles are fit for the services we want to provide. And that could be through the changing climate and other services we choose to do as a council. So yes, in short, yes, we can do that. And I think that those are the discussions we need to have and to make sure that we keep challenging ourselves to make sure we are providing the service the public want, but clearly within the constraints we face with the finances.
Thank you very much. I can't see any other hands, so again, I've got Councillor Harriott on Teams. Michael.
Hi, yeah, just a quick question on devolution of public spaces to town councils in particular. How would this contract facilitate that and work if a town council decided that they wish to take over public spaces within their areas?
Do you want me to take that, do you? That's fine. So obviously, part of the reason for the intended extension in the current contract arrangements, Councillor Harriott, is exactly what you're saying, because we are going through it. We're on a journey, aren't we, in terms of our local devolution programme, with areas being transferred and responsibilities being transferred to town and parish councils at different speeds in different areas. So that's part of the reason that we're trying to build in this additional flexibility in the contract at the moment. And the answer is that we need to get a sort of almost position where we've got some confidence about the land and the scale of the contract that we are going to need to deliver in the longer term, but also a bit of a menu with options for town and parishes to buy into or to procure themselves if they take control of open spaces. So it's a really valid point, and it is really very much what's been driving the approach around the current contract arrangements. I think the only other thing I was just going to flag was about how we can do more, Mark, to make sure that we bring communities with us on this, because we do know that our mailbox as members and certainly as a council is often dominated by challenges around litter and street cleansing and weeds as well, depending on the time of year. So we are where we are in terms of what we can do and our ability to tackle those issues in partnership with town and parish councils. But I think what would be really helpful is for us to just publish more clear information about what our service standards are, what our expectations are in terms of our contract arrangements around street cleaning and litter, so that there's more visibility. Because I think our residents don't have a sense of what's supposed to happen and when. And so how do they complain proportionately about what is and isn't working? So I think that's something that we could usefully pick up. Okay, so I think I took the vote, but I'll take it again anyway, just to be on the safe side. So could colleagues indicate their support for the recommendations, please? That's great. Thank you very much. So item 10 is the council change programme update. And so that's Councillor Bridger. Steve, please.
Thank you, Mike. And I did want to speak to this for 3 or 4 minutes, just to bring the report to life a little bit. Colleagues will recall that in December, Councillor Canford Mark brought a paper to Cabinet that set out the Council's approach to delivering a comprehensive whole council change programme. That was, of course, one of the recommendations by SIPFA when they did their financial resilience review of the council, I think last year. This report provides an update on the council's transformation journey, and another journey that we're on as a council. And I'd like to recognise Mark for helping us get this far. We're not starting from zero, of course. There was already lots of live savings and transformation activity across the council. Some of our teams actually are being recognised for that work by being shortlisted and, in some cases, winning awards for that work. What I wanted to get across today is that that work has now really gathered pace. Now we have, since we had Matt Lewis, who joined us, I think at the end of February. I'd like to thank Matt and his team for all the work they're doing on this. It's a really chunky piece of work across all the directorates. We won't need reminding, the scale of the challenge is really significant. We need to find £60 million worth of savings between now and the end of the decade. We still have, even with all the planned mitigations, a budget gap of £23 million. On top of the financial pressures, we've obviously still got rising demands and increasing complexity of need. That all means that the current ways of working are no longer sustainable. Now, to some extent, change isn't new. Our staff, I think, are probably by now veterans of change, given our what seems like permanent state of austerity. But we now need to take this to another level. And to say there is no option other than to do that. So I won't go into detail about the report. Our broad approach is outlined in the document. Just wanted to pick out a few things. And while this is sort of not just about technology and digital transformation, we are now also evaluating how artificial intelligence, how AI can help us deliver savings across the council. And that will be a major strand of our transformation programme moving forwards. We're currently looking at how we can use AI to deliver, as I say, MTFP savings, free up staff so they have more time to give human support where it matters most, demonstrating direct and tangible improved outcomes for our residents. But the next phase of AI is not just about the technology or something that just happens to our staff. It is about work, trust, and whether people feel they have a stake in what comes next. So we're encouraging our staff, excuse me, to bring their own voice, to bring their ideas to help us improve the way we work and deliver better services for residents and businesses in North Somerset. We're working on how we bring forward a decision soon that informs the direction we will take with regards to what we're calling whole council AI. Whatever we do decide, we will communicate what we're doing honestly and clearly, both internally and externally, to show that we're not just deploying technology for the sake of it, but that we're delivering savings, how we're delivering those savings, and improving the customer experience as much as we can, tailoring services around the individual needs of residents. We will do that in a proportionate way, an ethical, practical way that reflects our core council values and builds and maintains public trust. We are not outsourcing our judgment and empathy to AI tools. It's very important that all members are cited and engaged in our change programme, and I'm committed to strong member oversight and scrutiny across all the different work streams. And I've already been in discussions with the scrutiny team about how we can embed good governance that keeps up with the pace of change and the pace that we want to move going forwards. Just to pick out something else in the report, in the next few days we will appoint an external change partner who will provide some additional capacity and expertise over the summer, short period over the summer. So the next key milestone will be September, when Cabinet will receive a more detailed transformation roadmap, a little bit more detail on the high spend areas we're prioritising for delivering the most significant savings, and I think linking that in a clearer way with the MTFP. We're already seeing multiple references to transformation activity, both investment and savings, in different reports coming to the Cabinet. So I'd like us to use our ongoing budget monitoring reports to bring more coherence to the transformation work taking place across the whole council, to show clear progress and how we're tracking savings against those intended plans. Colleagues, one change I don't want to see is obviously a change of administration next May. But in all seriousness, I'm mindful that we do need a change programme that remains legitimate and deliverable under more than one administration. I think it's important to be clear about that. Yesterday we had a good debate at a meeting of our cross-party member transformation board. I'm very grateful for their strategic challenge in that group. Lots of really valuable discussion, which I think is best summarised as just get on with it. So on that note, Mike, I hope colleagues feel they can endorse the work we're doing and support the recommendations in this report.
Thank you very much, Steve. Can I have a seconder for the recommendations? Thank you, Councillor Waite. Any comments or questions from anyone I think the two things I would reflect is just to really endorse what you've said, Steve, and also just to emphasise the point that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So we don't just need strategies and plans, we need deliverable change that's going to help our bottom line and help improve services. So I hope that when the further report comes back in September, we will be really clear on what we're doing, when we're doing it, and who is responsible, so that we've got a really precise and defined plan that we can deliver against and be held accountable for. And secondly, just on the broader point around AI and transformation, I think we just have to keep remembering that artificial intelligence or service change which ends up making life more difficult for staff or more difficult for our residents isn't an improvement. So we must also keep in mind that we still want to be making life easy for people. We want people to be able to get on and do their jobs, and we want our residents and our businesses to be able to engage with the council efficiently and effectively. So as we go on this journey together, and I agree with you, it needs to be a long-term transformation which we can all buy into and support whatever happens in terms of the politics, that we keep in mind that this still has to enable us and empower us to get on and deliver for our communities. Okay, there are no other questions. Oh, yeah, go on, Annemieke, go for it. Councillor Waite.
No, it's not a question at all. It's just I wanted to say that I thought this was a really interesting report. I actually really enjoyed reading this, Steve. There was so much in there that made me think, actually, I can see how these things can be done differently. So I just wanted to put that on the record, that it was an excellent report, and I completely support the recommendations. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Many years ago, I always set the ambition that council meetings should be more fun. So we've made a small step forward by having an interesting report. So if nothing else, that's a good progress. Okay, thank you very much. Can colleagues indicate their support for the recommendations then, please? Thank you very much. Okay, item 11 is the appointments to outside bodies. So the list has been circulated in advance of the meeting. There have been a few changes which are marked in the report. So I'm happy to move the recommendations and ask for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Waite. I don't think there's any questions or comments. So you wish this one was a bit more fun? Yeah, well, I agree with you. Okay, if colleagues want to indicate that they're happy with the recommendations, please. Thank you very much. Okay, and then we've got item 12, which is the forward plan dated the 2nd of June. So this is obviously for noting. So unless anyone has any questions or observations, we'll take that one as read. And then item 13, oral reports from cabinet members. So please indicate if you wish to bring any updates. So Councillor Whitfield, Roger, and then Councillor Home-Harris.
Hi, thank you very much, Mike. Just a very brief one from the world of adult social care. You'll probably all recall that some time ago we had a CQC inspection, and we didn't quite get the result we wanted, but we have an action plan to get us into a better place. You'll be seeing some more items coming through on that as we work our way through it. But we've just had news that one of our local councils in the area is having their re-inspection. So joy of joys, we have a re-inspection to look forward to, but I think we're in a better place this time. I feel that we've got a handle on some of the issues that caused us problems last time. Some of the problem last time was the fact that we'd put changes in place, but they hadn't had long enough to bed in. So I am looking forward to a re-inspection at some point, probably this year, where hopefully we'll get an upgraded result from last time.
Very good, thank you. And Jenna?
Thank you. So this is an update on the Renters' Rights Act. So Renters' Rights Act came into force on 1st of May, and officers have been keeping an eye on. We've been asking for updates. Has there been any changes? We've been prepared for an increase in homeless applications and all manner of stress to our services, but actually, I'm pleased to report that so far there has not been any significant increase in the number of people who are seeking help from the council for homelessness due to eviction from their tenancy. So that's good news. In terms of the time frame, landlords had until 30th of April to serve a Section 21 no-fault notice to evict, and then they would have to start court proceedings by the 31st of July. So we might still see an uptick in applications, but officers are absolutely ready for this and they're prepared. There is a phased rollout of other provisions in the Renters' Rights Act. It's going to be over 2026 to 2027. Some of these dates are not clear yet, but one of the next things that will happen is setting up a landlord database, and councils are being tasked with enforcement. So just that everybody is aware, officers are absolutely getting ready to do this. But none of this should be a surprise. Officers have been working really hard to explain and work with landlords and tenants, including very well-attended sessions on 1st of April, which was supported by the National Residential Landlords Association. So this is not about catching people out. We have an ecosystem of homes, and we need everybody, both landlords and tenants, people who know landlords and tenants, who are landlords and tenants, to just take part and find out what they're supposed to be doing and make sure people know what they're meant to be doing to comply with the law. So finally, just a thanks to the officer team for taking on these changes and for the very well-attended and informative We Rent campaign across the west of England, which was led by Housing Matters, and of course our comms team and officers for supporting this. Any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenna. I can't see any other hands, so thank you, colleagues, for the oral updates. And then the final item is 14, which is urgent business, and there is none. So at 15:17, I am happy to close the meeting. Thank you very much.